Chapter 91 Anxiety, Interrogation at the Town Entrance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Second Sister Bai. Someone yelled from the crowd. Lin Pinger looked over and saw Zhao Luden, from the old Zhao family. They hauled stuff between the nearby villages and towns in a donkey cart. Old Zhao practically lived on that donkey, even named his kid Donkey Dan. I'll get you to town, no extra stops. Promise it'll be quick. Zhao Luden called out. He probably wandered off to watch the drama like everyone else. But he couldn't stand by and offered a ride. Lin Pinger sniffed, grateful. Brother Zhao, I can't thank you enough. Don't mention it. Hop in, let's go. Zhao Donkey was already up and ready to roll. Lin Pinger didn't waste a second. Rushing to the cart and climbing aboard, the donkey cart took off in a flash, and the crowd couldn't help but praise Zhao Luden's kind heart. Some were saying, from now on, I'm using the old Zhao's cart when I go to town. They're honest and don't overcharge. Good folks, through and through. Others chimed in, agreeing. Someone muttered, and look at the Bai family, supposed to be scholars. But even us farmers wouldn't steal something like that. Whether those words reached the Bai family's old house or not, it was quiet over there. Maybe the old man was chewing everyone out inside, or maybe he was just too ashamed to say anything. Bai Hong wheeled Bai Ruozhu home and ran into Bai Ziho and Bai Zapei on the way. Seeing Bai Ruozhu lying in the cart and their father's bloody head, they were furious. Dad, we heard what happened. I'm going to settle this right now. Bai Ziho growled, turning to charge toward the old house. Bai Zapei grabbed his arm. Hold up, bro, little sis is about to pop, then she'll be laid up. We'll deal with them later, when we have time, Bai Zapei said, a little faster than usual. His tone was cold, and a flash of anger crossed his eyes. He was usually so reserved, but now he looked genuinely ticked off. Bai Ziho was usually calm, but now he was seeing red. He took a deep breath, trying to keep his cool. Second brother's right. We'll get them later. He grabbed the cart from Bai Yihong and started pushing it home, moving fast but keeping the ride smooth. Guys, I'm okay. Mom went to get Dr. Lu, she'll be back soon. Just get me back to my room so I can lie down, Bai Ruozhu said, her voice weaker than normal, beads of sweat on her forehead. The labor pains were starting. She knew her first baby wouldn't come quickly, so she wasn't worried. She was almost relieved when the pain started. She wasn't afraid of the pain, she was more worried about her water breaking without labor pains and the baby not coming soon enough. Maybe it was low amniotic fluid, or maybe the baby knew it was almost time and was saving its strength, but it wasn't kicking as much as usual. This worried Bai Ruozhu, but according to her pulse, the baby was still okay for the time being. Bai Ruozhu was helped into bed. Zhou Deshun, having heard the news, came over to check on Bai Yihong. Zhou Deshun's wife was close to Lin Pinger. She took Lin Pinger's place and went into the room to be with Bai Ruozhu, asking the men to leave. Honey, don't be scared. It hurts when you have a baby, but don't waste your energy screaming. Save it for when you need it, Zhou Deshun's daughter-in-law said, sharing her own experience. Bai Ruozhu already knew all this, but having someone with her, talking to her, made her feel less nervous. Meanwhile, Lin Pinger had arrived at the edge of town. Zhao Luden had driven like a maniac. Lin Pinger was still catching her breath, but she wanted to give Zhao Luden extra money, but he refused, only taking the regular fare. Ma'am Bai, I don't gouge people. I know you mean well, but gotta keep things fair, Zhao Luden said, grinning, his teeth gleaming against his tan skin. You're a real lifesaver. I gotta run. I'll thank you later, Lin Pinger said. She wanted to hurry into town, but then she heard Zhao Luden's voice behind her again. Ma'am Bai, I'll wait here and take you back later, so you don't have to haggle for a ride. Lin Pinger was so grateful, she almost burst into tears. She apologized again, nearly bowing to Zhao Luden. The Zhao family was so kind, and this was taking time away from their business, but before Lin Pinger could say anything else, she heard a commotion. A bunch of soldiers were blocking the entrance to town. One of them shouted, "Attention! Everyone entering or leaving town will be searched. Get in line." Lin Pinger's face went white. She realized what this meant and rushed to get in line, but there were already a lot of people ahead of her. She cried out to the people in front, "Please, let me cut in line. I have to get Dr. Lu. My daughter's about to give birth." Some kind people let her go ahead, but others were in a hurry to get into town. The soldiers were taking their time with each person. Lin Pinger was beside herself with worry. Seeing her distress, Zhao Luden hurried over to comfort her. "Don't worry, let's talk to the officer and see if he'll make an exception. Isn't your second son acquainted with someone? He could probably pull some strings." Lin Pinger's eyes lit up. Erlang knew the county magistrate, even called him brother-in-law. Maybe she could get through if she mentioned it to the officer. With Zhao Luden by her side, she approached the officer respectfully. "Sir, my son Bai Zapay knows Mr. Li. We're good people, not troublemakers. My daughter's in labor and needs a doctor from town. Please, sir, can you make an exception?" Unfortunately, Lin Pinger was wearing her work clothes, which were pretty worn out, patched at the cuffs and knees. The officer took one look at her and didn't believe her son knew the magistrate at all. He frowned. "This is a serious matter. I can't make exceptions, especially for favoritism." Lin Pinger burst into tears. Why hadn't she brought Erlang's card with her? Now her words meant nothing. Inside the town gate, a slender man was standing off to the side, watching the people being questioned. He was wearing a strange wooden mask, so no one could see his expression. "My daughter's about to give birth." A woman's voice reached his ears. He perked up. The voice sounded familiar. He quietly walked to the gate and looked outside, immediately spotting Lin Pinger, her eyes red and swollen from crying. He remembered that she was the mother of that pregnant woman. After listening to Lin Pinger's pleas, he waved to one of his men and whispered, "Let that woman into town. Then let her bring the doctor out of town. Don't stop her." Chapter 92 Suspicious Behavior. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The young guys with him looked barely 20, and one of them looked surprised. "Boss, this doesn't seem right. If this gets out, you'll have some explaining to do to the higher-ups." The masked man's face was hidden, but his eyes were cold. "Since when do I need your permission to do anything?" His tone was slow and even, but the chill in it made the follower shudder. He mentally kicked himself for getting too comfortable and forgetting what he should and shouldn't say. Still, he thought he was just looking out for his boss. What if letting someone like that go was a trap? Even if the peasant woman was clean, what if the person she led back was a craftsman and sent a message? He was worried, but kept his mouth shut. He just waved the official over to let Lin Pinger through the city gates, then watched her head towards Fusho Hall. Lin Pinger had braced herself for being turned away, so she was shocked when they suddenly let her in. She figured it was the magistrate's orders, and kept thanking the follower, promising to come back and thank the magistrate properly. The follower just glowered silently. Lin Pinger didn't overthink it and hurried to find Dr. Lu. "Dr. Lu, my daughter took a fall and her water broke. There's some blood, and I think she's going into labor. Please come with me. We'll pay your standard fee." Lin Pinger blurted out as soon as she saw her. Dr. Lu frowned. "Don't panic. Let me grab some things, and I'll come with you." She went into the back room to pack her medical kit and birthing supplies, then quietly called a servant over and whispered something to him. The servant slipped out of Fusho Hall. The follower's eyes narrowed. "That's gotta be trouble," he thought. Looks like she sent a message, but his job was to watch the peasant woman, so he decided to stick to Lin Pinger and Lu Baishuang like glue, and he'd find out what was going on soon enough. Lu Baishuang finished packing and left with Lin Pinger. When they got to the town gate, they saw the guards were stopping everyone for questioning. She frowned, as if wondering how Lin Pinger had gotten through in the first place. Instead of letting them leave, he ran back to Jiang Yichuan. "Sir, something's up with those two. The woman doctor sent someone to deliver a message before they left." Behind the mask, Jiang Yichuan frowned even harder. He was pretty sure the Bays were clean. They were locals, born and raised, and it was true that Bai Ruozhu was pregnant and about to pop. But he wasn't so sure about Lu Baishuang. "Who did he report to?" he asked, his voice low and serious. "I don't know. I was following them so closely, I couldn't chase after the messenger," the follower explained quickly. Jiang Yichuan watched the two women heading out of the city. Lin Pinger looked like she was about to burst into tears again, wondering why they were being held up. "Lu Dong, are you certain Lu Baishuang's acting suspicious?" Jiang Yichuan asked. Lu Dong, the follower, nodded emphatically. "Absolutely. I heard her secretly call him boy." Jiang Yichuan was silent for a few seconds. Lu Dong waited anxiously, wondering what he was thinking. Finally, the young master spoke. "Let them go. But take a few men and follow them. Don't spook them," Jiang Yichuan said coldly. "If they're mixed up in something, we'll catch them all." Lu Dong thought the young master was brilliant. A long con to reel in the big fish, he mused. He gave the order to let Lin Pinger and the others through, then gathered several guards to tail the donkey cart they were riding in. Not long after Lin Pinger left, a carriage with the character Du on it pulled up in a hurry. The driver was none other than Zhou Fu, the young man who had been seeing Bai Ruozhu. The inspection at the city gate forced the carriage to stop. Du Zhongshu got out, looking clearly worried. He had told Lu Baishuang to let him know when Bai Ruozhu was going into labor. He wanted to help. But he had to wait because of an important guest. It was obvious that Bai Ruozhu's mother and Lu Baishuang had already left town, and now he was stuck. As Du Zhongshu questioned the official, Jiang Yichuan's eyes grew even colder. It seemed Lu Dong had made a mistake. Lu Baishuang had only contacted Du Zhongshu. Keeping it a secret from the Bai family seemed shady. Why was Du Zhongshu hiding this from the Bai family? He had no idea Bai Ruozhu had the kind of pull that would make the owner of the town pharmacy this concerned. No exceptions. "I'm only letting the young master through after a thorough questioning." Jiang Yichuan ordered the official, making it clear that Du Zhongshu would be staying put for a bit. His eyes were like ice. Who was to say the Dus weren't enemy spies? He couldn't afford to take any chances. While Zhao Luden was racing back, the village meeting about the school was starting. "Where's Yihong?" the old village chief asked, coughing. "He wasn't feeling well," Elder Wang sighed heavily. "Don't wait for him. Something happened in his family. He won't be able to make it." The old village chief looked at the other elders, then at his eldest son. Everyone seemed to know what was going on. He turned to Wang Feng. "What happened? Why didn't you tell me?" "You just took your medicine this morning, and I didn't want to worry you," Wang Feng said with a sigh. "The Bai family's daughter was beaten, and her water broke. I don't know what's going to happen." The old village chief was surprised. Before he could process the news, Wang Qi spoke. "Bai Xiuzai is too old to run the family anymore. How could he let his son steal his cousin's betrothal token and then smash it? It's a disgrace. You think your granddaughter can compete with your grandson?" The son of the Bai family cracked his second uncle's head, and Bai Fu didn't even complain. Everyone saw him smack them with a cane. Their family's a mess. "I heard Ruozhu's husband is sick and far away. I don't know if he'll get better. That jade pendant was the only thing left from him for her and the baby. How could anyone steal it and break it? Like I said, their family's a mess." The group started chattering, and the village chief figured he knew what was going on. He couldn't very well comment on someone's family troubles, so he coughed and said, "Let's discuss who should teach at the school." Wang Qi immediately said, "Don't even think about Bai Yibo. Today's events say everything about his character. I don't want my grandson led astray. Wang Qi was well respected in the village. Once he said something like that, nobody could disagree. In the end, they chose Wu Xiaocai, mostly because nobody thought the others could handle it. After the meeting, Wang Qi headed towards the Bai family's house. The Wang and Bai families were related by marriage, and he admired Bai Ziho, so he wanted to offer his support. But before he got to the door, he saw Bai Ziho, his wife, and his family already standing outside. Chapter 93. She will be my sister forever. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bai Ruozhu was in labor, but the contractions were far apart and not too intense. Though she was sweating a little, she was clear-headed. Work around the house had stopped for the day because it was inconvenient. People who had come to help offered Bai Yihong some words of comfort and then left. Soon after, Zhou Deshan announced from outside, "Hong, your dad's brought your older brother and his family. They'll be here any minute." Bai Ruozhu frowned. The old man wasn't bringing them to make trouble, but to apologize. He might be biased and a bit out of touch, but he was shrewd. He wouldn't want people gossiping about the Bai family, or Bai Yibao's reputation ruined. This apology was for the villagers to see. She found it irritating. The old man had studied the classics for years. Did he have to be so fake? Outside the Bai family's door, the old man looked grim, as if he'd aged years overnight. Behind him, Bai Yiba and his family looked like they'd been dragged through the mud. Bai Yiba's clothes were torn and dirty, and Saburo had a bruised forehead. Wang's hair was a mess, and she was sobbing softly. The whole family looked pathetic. Shiro was there too. If Bai Ruozhu saw him now, she'd probably find fresh bruises on his face. Right after Bai Yihong pushed Bai Ruozhu away, Sanlang had jumped on Shiro and started beating him. Shiro, stubborn as ever, refused to moan, cry, or beg for mercy. The neighbors didn't know Shiro had been beaten again. If they had, even the Zhang family's busybody next door would have stepped in. Mr. Bai had been so angry that he'd whipped Saburo with his cane, causing the bruise on his forehead. Whether it was intentional or not, some people thought Bai Yiba and Saburo had both been beaten, making them look even more miserable. It was all an act to gain sympathy. The old man, facing the curious onlookers, raised his voice, "Second brother, I've brought your older brother and his family to apologize." His loud voice immediately grabbed everyone's attention. Even neighbors who hadn't been watching the drama peeked their heads out to see what the Bai family was up to. Mr. Bai cleared his throat and continued loudly, "Sanlang is just a foolish kid who wanted to play a prank on his cousin. Nobody expected it to end up like this. He knows he was wrong and he's here to admit it." The old man's voice carried into the yard and reached Bai Ruozhu. She couldn't help but curl her lip. Stealing is just a prank now. My dad really knows how to excuse Sanlang. Why didn't he mention anything about Sanlang getting beaten? Why didn't he ask if I was okay? Next to her, Zhou Deshan's daughter-in-law squeezed her hand and said, "Don't get upset. It's not worth it." She sighed heavily. "Your grandpa's an old fool." She lowered her voice, since Bai Fu was her elder, but that's the end of it. After all, Bai Fu was her elder. She couldn't openly speak ill of her elders, but did this elder act like an elder? Zhou Deshan's wife secretly scoffed. Bai Yihong didn't know what to do. He instinctively looked toward Bai Ruozhu's house. He felt that his daughter was starting to hurt now, so it was better not to disturb her, so he turned his attention to Erlang. Bai Zipei's eyes were as calm as still water, without a trace of warmth. He wasn't showing his anger like Bai Ziho had today. He was simply the kind of person who kept his emotions bottled up. "Dad, Grandpa's an elder. It's not right for him to be standing outside. We should invite him in first. As for the others, we can say it's not convenient since my little sister's in labor." Erlang said firmly. Bai Yihong understood, nodded, and called out, "Dad, what are you talking about? Come in and sit down quickly. Brother and the others should head back. It's not convenient with Ruozhu giving birth." Mr. Bai sighed dramatically at the door. You still refuse to forgive your older brother? I've already taught him and Saburo a lesson. Bai Ruozhu seethed in her room. If she hadn't been afraid of being accused of filial impiety, which could hurt her second brother's career, she would have kicked the old man out. The old fox was so shameless, letting him in after he had said I won't forgive your brother. Didn't it make people think that her father was narrow-minded? Burdened by the weight of filial piety, Bai Yihong felt trapped. Bai Ruozhu rolled her eyes, winked at Zhou Deshan's wife, screamed, and then shouted, "Don't let Sanlang and them in. They beat me and want to hurt my baby. Don't let them in." Her voice trembled, "Dad, I'm scared." The sound insulation in the country houses wasn't great, and it was still hot. Although Bai Ruozhu's house was covered with curtains, the door was open, and the windows were papered, so her voice carried clearly outside. The old man's face darkened. He silently cursed Bai Ruozhu. That girl must be scared by the birth. How could her relatives harm her? She's imagining things. Listen, his statement was an echo of his previous statement. Sanlang was just joking with Bai Ruozhu. Bai Ruozhu just thought too much, and thought it was Sanlang who stole her jade pendant. Fortunately, his mumbling voice couldn't reach Bai Ruozhu, or she would have jumped up and scolded him. Of course, it was better not to move, in case her water broke. Bai Zipei opened the door and bowed respectfully to the old man in front of the onlookers. It was normal for younger people to show respect to their elders, but the villagers didn't usually offer free gifts, even during holidays, so there were very few of them. So Bai Zipei's big gift was thought-provoking. When Bai Fu saw Bai Zipei's calm movements and meticulous work, and his whole body exuding a strong scholarly atmosphere, he couldn't help but sigh. This grandson is really the most like him. Bai Ruozhu couldn't hear what the old man was saying, otherwise she would have rolled her eyes fiercely and cursed secretly. You really love to flatter yourself. My second brother is nothing like you, you can't even compare to his toes. Superior. Outside the door, the old man was stunned and asked, Erlang, what are you doing? Bai Zipei stood up and said, Grandpa, please come inside to talk. As for uncle and his family, please go home. My little sister can't be frightened anymore. The old man's expression changed. The fact that the first family wasn't invited in meant that the second family didn't want to associate with them. He glared at Erlang angrily and said, sooner or later, the girl will have a different last name. You're going to disown your own uncle and cousin for a woman. Bai Zipei's face turned even colder. He looked at the old man and said, I don't care about her last name. All I know is she's my sister, and she'll be my sister, Bai Zipei's, for the rest of my life. Chapter 94 I Will Live Well. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The old man stared at Bai Zipei, the grandson who reminded him the most of himself, his face a mask of disbelief. In his mind, a girl with a different last name was essentially a stranger. A married daughter is water thrown away, as the saying goes. Why all the fuss over someone outside the family? He never imagined Erlang would dare challenge him in public. The events of the day flooded back, fueling his anger. He lashed out, slapping Bai Zipei across the face. The sharp crack silenced the onlookers. A bizarre scene unfolded at the Bai house. People stood with mouths agape or eyes wide, yet the air hung still and strange. Before anyone could react, Bai Zipei bowed deeply to the old man. Grandpa, he said, his tone respectful but firm, I hear your lesson. But I stand by what I said, Ruozhu will always be my sister. The old man gasped, pointing a trembling finger. You. He struggled to find the words. He wanted to call Bai Zipei unfilial, but the public display of respect, the bow, the acceptance of the slap as a lesson, made it impossible. Yet, Bai Zipei's defense of Bai Ruozhu choked him with resentment. Bai Yibo rushed to support the old man, patting his back soothingly. Then, he rounded on Bai Zipei. Erlang, all that book learning, and you still upset your grandpa like this? What if you kill him with anger? I don't understand, uncle, Bai Zipei replied evenly. When have I ever disobeyed grandpa? Or brought dishonor to the family? Despite the tension, Bai remained composed, like a scholar reasoning instead of a brawler spoiling for a fight. Bai, lacking Bai self-control, blurted out, "Making your grandpa this angry isn't disobedience. Is Bai Ruozhu really worth all this trouble?" "Uncle," Bai said, his tone light but pointed, "do you have daughters? Or sisters, perhaps?" The crowd turned to Bai, curious if he would speak of his own daughters and sisters with the same dismissive words he used for Bai Ruozhu, as if they were somehow less. Bai just scoffed and mumbled, "It's not the same thing." His voice lacked its earlier conviction. Ignoring him, Bai bowed again to the old man. "Grandpa, I didn't mean to anger you. My little sister is about to give birth. When her husband returns, he'll expect an explanation. Let me go back and take care of things." Without waiting for a response, he turned and entered the house. He didn't invite the old man in, and though the door remained open, Zhou Deshun stood in the doorway, a polite but firm barrier. "Uncle Bai, why don't you come in for some tea?" Zhou Deshun offered with a smile, then added to Bai, "Brother Bai, please keep your voice down. You've already upset Ruozhu, and we don't want to interfere with her delivery." An older man in the crowd called out, "Continuing the family line is paramount. Let the woman have her baby in peace." Others chimed in, sensing that Mr. Bai and his party hadn't come to apologize at all, but to stir up trouble. Preventing a woman from having a peaceful delivery was seen as particularly shameful. Bai Fu's face flushed with shame under the onlookers' scrutiny. He wanted to go in and berate Bai Hong, but he also worried about his eldest son's reputation if he lingered there at the doorway. Hesitating, he threw up his hands in a gesture of surrender, sighed, and said, "Children and grandchildren find their own way. I'm too old to interfere." With that, he turned and left. Bai Ba, San Lang, and Wang hurried after him, eager to escape the uncomfortable scene. As they dispersed, little Shiro caught everyone's eye. Despite the bruises on his face, he stood silently, staring intently at the door of Bai's second room, his thoughts unreadable. Through a crack in the door, Bai Hong saw Silang and his heart went out to the boy. "Bring Silang in," he urged. "The midwife can check his injuries later. He's just a child. We can't let him be seriously hurt." Zhou Deshun quickly beckoned to Silang and welcomed him inside. Before, no one paid much attention to Shiro Bai, a boy many considered a bit slow. But now, Shiro's righteous act of defending family had drawn attention to him, and they saw he wasn't so much stupid as simply quiet and reserved. Once inside the yard, Silang ignored everyone else and headed straight for Bai Ruozhu's room, brushing past Bai Hong's protests. "You gonna die?" Shiro asked Bai Ruozhu bluntly, his expression serious. Bai Ruozhu forced a smile. "No. I'm going to live a long life, and you're going to have a little nephew." Before, no one had bothered about this child, but now he had someone to care about. He would be all the better for it in the future, Bai Ruozhu thought to herself. "Good," Shiro nodded, then turned and left the room. Zhou Deshun's wife turned to Bai Ruozhu in surprise. "That child seems very attached to you." His heart was closed off, Bai Ruozhu said weakly, "and I gave him a window. Ideally, moving around helped speed up labor." But Bai Ruozhu's water had broken, preventing her from standing or walking. As a result, her labor was progressing slowly. It was probably going to be a long night. Zhou Deshun's wife glanced at the time. "I'll make you a bowl of noodles so you have some energy for later." "Thank you," Bai Ruozhu said gratefully. Now was not the time for formalities. Hearing that Bai Ruozhu needed noodles, Bai Ziho hurried to the kitchen to help with the fire. Bai Zipe went to fetch water. A steaming bowl of noodles, topped with 2 poached eggs, was soon ready. Bai Ruozhu had little appetite, but she forced herself to eat the noodles in small bites, enduring the pain. Zhou Deshun's wife admired her stoicism. Just as Bai Ruozhu finished the noodles, Fang Guizhi rushed in, a red mark on her face. She had probably snuck away from home despite her mother's disapproval. Bai Ruozhu's eyes welled up. "Silly girl, you're not married. You shouldn't be here." Go home soon. Fang Guizhi refused to leave, worried about Bai Ruozhu's well-being. Soon after, Wang Caiyue's mother, Wang Su, arrived to help. Since Wang Caiyue was engaged to Bai Ziho, it wasn't appropriate for her to be at the Bai house. However, as a woman who had given birth herself, Mrs. Wang Su was undoubtedly more useful than Wang Caiyue. While everyone waited anxiously, Zhao Luden drove his donkey cart to the front of the house and shouted, "Make way! The midwife's here. Don't delay her." Chapter 95 Abnormal Masked Man. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Lu Baishuang got out of the car, she frowned at the crowd gathered outside the Bai house. What's the big deal about a birth? She thought. Something's probably gone wrong. But she was generally even-tempered and avoided getting involved in other people's business. She wouldn't even have bothered to send the letter if Zhong Shu hadn't insisted. Seeing Lu Baishuang arrive, Bai Yihong rushed to open the door, saying excitedly, "Doctor, please check on my daughter." Lu Baishuang nodded curtly and walked straight into Bai Ruozhu's room, her face impassive. She saw Bai Ruozhu lying calmly in bed. The mother seemed relaxed, but her family was clearly panicking. It was strange. "I heard your water broke after a fall. How did you fall?" Lu Baishuang asked casually, feeling Bai Ruozhu's pulse. Bai Ruozhu wiped the sweat from her forehead and said with a weak smile, "My cousin pushed me. It scared my parents." Lu Baishuang frowned again. "The cousin pushed her. And she's pregnant too?" But Lu Baishuang didn't want any drama. She continued the examination, then said, "Things seem okay. You've handled it well. The baby's fine. We just have to wait for labor to progress. If you haven't delivered by this time tomorrow, I'll have to induce labor." Inducing labor wasn't ideal, but if the amniotic fluid was gone for too long and labor didn't progress, they wouldn't have a choice. Bai Ruozhu nodded, not asking any questions. She just wanted to relax and shorten the intervals between contractions. Meanwhile, Lu Dong was hiding in the hills with some officials, determined not to tip off their target. But after waiting for hours with no activity, he started to suspect they were wasting their time. Could Lu Baishuang be bait? He wondered. Is the real craftsman getting away? Thinking this, Lu Dong couldn't wait any longer. He told his men to keep watching and slipped away, heading back to Anyuan town. At the edge of Anyuan town, Du Zhong was pacing anxiously. He'd sent a message to the county magistrate, but the magistrate, who usually got along with him, wasn't at his office. And whenever he tried to leave town, some official seemed to have it out for him. He'd be stopped and questioned extra carefully, always denied exit. Of course, nobody stopped Lu Dong from entering town. He found Jiang Yichuan and quickly voiced his concerns. Jiang Yichuan chuckled and said, "You're wrong. The female doctor was just giving that man updates so he can watch people giving birth." Lu Dong spotted Yukamiya Ulmoids dressed up nearby. He scratched his head, confused, and asked, "Could it be that the Bai woman is carrying his kid?" "Don't talk nonsense." Jiang Yichuan snapped, his voice low but sharp. Lu Dong flinched. What was up with the young master? Why was he so angry? He didn't dare say another word and stood nervously to the side. "Send someone to call those guys back. Don't waste manpower," Jiang Yichuan said coldly, still sounding irritated by Lu Dong's careless comment. Lu Dong quickly agreed, and the opportunity to send someone to the hills was lost. A moment later, a man rode in from Shishir city, looking pleased. "Sir, Shizhua has been captured, and their hideout's been found," he announced. Jiang Yichuan held up a hand, stopping him. These county officials were useless. This kind of information was supposed to be kept secret. Why was he shouting it out? Du Zhongshu, who was standing nearby, heard the announcement and immediately asked the official who had stopped him excitedly, "Since Shizhua's been caught, can you let me leave town now? I'm really in a hurry. I've been delayed too long." Jiang Yichuan's face, hidden behind the mask, was cold. For some reason, he found Du Zhongshu intensely annoying, especially after hearing his outburst. Lu Dong heard the commotion and came over to Jiang Yichuan, asking, "Sir, can we let that man go?" Jiang Yichuan glared at Lu Dong. Even though he was wearing a mask, the glare that blazed out of the eye holes was enough to make Lu Dong shrink back. He thought to himself, "Why did I offend the young master today?" Finally, Jiang Yichuan allowed Du Zhongshu to leave. He watched Du Zhongshu not even bother with the carriage, instead grabbing a horse and riding off, and snorted with disdain. Why is he so worked up over a birth? To be so anxious about a widow, it's a disgrace to the Du family. Jiang Yichuan said coldly. Lu Dong stared, stunned. He looked blankly at the young master, then quickly lowered his head to avoid punishment. Why was the young master acting so weird today? The young master was normally reserved, but kind. It was rare for him to deliberately hold someone back like this, unless he suspected something. And the young master didn't talk much, so why was he commenting about someone being anxious about a widow? Did the young master know the Bai girl? Of course, these were just Lu Dong's thoughts. He wouldn't dare ask Jiang Yichuan for anything. Du Zhongshu rode for a while, then suddenly slowed down. He'd received the letter and come by carriage, claiming he'd met Lin Ping'er by chance and offered to help, bringing her and Lu Baishuang to the hills so he could check things out. But he'd been delayed. Now that he was going to the Bai house unannounced, what excuse could he use? Then Du Zhongshu slapped his forehead. How could he forget what Zhou Fu had overheard? He'd claimed to be Changxing's friend, there to give Bai Ruozhu money on his behalf. Thinking this, he cheered up, spurred his horse, and galloped back toward the village. Lu Baishuang had once asked why he was so concerned about Bai Ruozhu, reminding him of her identity. He'd replied frankly, "She's an important partner of mine and can help me make a lot of money. Of course I care about her safety." Lu Baishuang hadn't seemed entirely convinced, but she wasn't one to meddle. Du Zhongshu had always remained calm. Why would he have feelings for a pregnant widow? Of course, you never really know. Sometimes, people don't even understand themselves. Night was falling. Bai Ruozhu ate dinner again, but it was a struggle. The contractions were getting stronger and more frequent. But Lu Baishuang noted that her cervix was only dilated to 2 fingers. It was going to be a while. After dinner, as the villagers gathered under the trees to chat, a man rode into the village on horseback and stopped outside the Bai house, attracting attention. Chapter 96. Maybe she can be saved. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In Du Zhongshu's eyes, the horse wasn't anything special, not his usual ride, just hastily unloaded from a carriage. But in a place like Haoshan village, where horses were a luxury, it was considered impressive. As Du Zhongshu entered the village, everyone couldn't help but gossip about the stranger. He just looked like he came from money. Nearing the Bai family's house, he slowed down to avoid outpacing Meng Lang. Outside the yard, he knocked and asked, "Is Mr. Bai home?" That he noticed people watching, so he was cautious, not directly asking for Bai Ruozhu to avoid fueling gossip. Inside the Bai household, everyone was busy. Some chopped wood and boiled water, while others helped Lu Baishuang. Lin Ping'er tidied Bai Ruozhu's room, preparing it for after the birth, since Bai Ruozhu would be confined to bed there. So, Du Zhongshu's first knock went unanswered. He stood waiting awkwardly for a long while. "Mr. Bai Yihong, are you home?" Du Zhongshu called out, louder this time. Bai Yihong, surprised, answered and opened the door. He was stunned to see Du Zhongshu. "Mr. Bai, I'm a friend of Changxing. He asked me to bring some money to your daughter." Du Zhongshu worried the Bai family might not let him in. It was awkward for an unmarried woman to receive a strange man after giving birth, but mentioning the baby's father made things different. Bai Yihong was even more confused. Erlang spoke up, and Bai Yihong finally let him in. Bai Ruozhu was oblivious to the commotion outside, focusing on the birth. Lu Baishuang said she was dilated, but progress was slow. She urged her to relax and massaged her to ease the pain. Her water had already broken, limiting what could be done. Bai Ziho, seeing Du Zhongshu, demanded, "What are you doing here?" He grabbed him, ready to fight. Du Zhongshu, feeling exposed, flushed. He quickly regained his composure, smiling, "Brother Bai, good to see you again. Chongqing asked me to give you this money. He's too sick to come back but wanted to help Ruozhu and the baby." Bai Ziho was speechless. Hadn't his sister made up that story? How could this guy really be sent by Chongqing with money? What was going on? Even Lin Pinger was confused but preoccupied. She glanced quickly at Du Zhongshu and continued working. Finally, Bai Zipe greeted Du Zhongshu, saying, "My sister's giving birth today. We're all a bit preoccupied, sorry to neglect you." "No problem, don't worry about it," Du Zhongshu said, feeling increasingly awkward. He felt like he was causing trouble. Why had he rushed in here on impulse? "It's late, and my sister's in labor. Why don't you come back in a few days?" Erlang's eyes were sharp, and something flashed in them as he spoke. Du Zhongshu barely caught it but felt a jolt, fearing Bai Zipe had figured him out. He hesitated, then said, "Now that I'm here, I'd like to see the baby born. I don't want to be a bother. Also, my family runs a pharmacy. If you need anything, I can help." Before Erlang could answer, Lu Baishuang threw open Bai Ruozhu's curtain, her face grim. "Then get some old ginseng, just in case." The yard fell silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing. Villagers might not know medicine, but they knew ginseng could both heal and kill. When Bai Yihong had rescued Chongqing, injured and unconscious, what had cost them so much? Ginseng. It was ginseng that had saved his life, though the kid had also lost his. Falling off the cliff, it was a very dangerous situation that required Lao Shen to hang her life. Lin Pinger's eyes suddenly turned red, but in the end she held back from crying. If she cried, her daughter would be even more frightened and panicked. Du Zhongshu saw Lu Baishuang was serious. He nodded, "I'll get it right away." He left the Bai family yard, quickly mounted his horse, and rode out of the village. Hearing Lu Baishuang ask for ginseng, Bai Ruozhu knew Du Zhongshu had arrived, but he left before she could greet him. She was grateful, whether Du Zhongshu saw her as a friend or only cared about their business deal. Back in Anyuan town, the county officials reported to the magistrate. Some, those taken by Lu Dong, were particularly frustrated. They'd spent the day watching someone give birth, they had no real information, just a messy scene. "Oh, and on the way back, we saw the Du family pharmacy's young master going to the Bai's, but he left quickly, saying he was getting some old ginseng. I wonder if that means anything." One official, desperate to find something, offered his observation, hoping to find something on the Du family. Master Li stroked his chin, considering. "It seems Bai Xiandi's sister's giving birth. Tomorrow, I'll prepare some gifts to send to Househan village." He addressed the clerk. "Yes, sir." Master Li turned to the masked man on his left, asking, "Sir, what do you think? Is this Du Zhongshu okay?" Jiang Yichuan snorted. Everyone assumed he saw a problem. But after a moment, Jiang Yichuan said, "No problem. It's just personal matters." Master Li simply said, "Oh," and asked no more questions. If they said there was no problem, there was no problem. It was better than half-day check, but Jiang Yichuan frowned behind his mask, muttering, "Old ginseng? Is she dying? Is it that bad? I have something to do. I'll be leaving," he said abruptly, leaving the county office, ignoring Master Li's surprise. Master Li seemed used to it, showing no reaction. Under cover of darkness, Jiang Yichuan quietly left town, riding towards Househan village. He knew some medical skills and might be able to save the women. The fourth update came a little late. I had diarrhea. 555. Chapter 97. Babies Cry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiang Yichuan, unlike Du Zhongshu, played it smart. He ditched his horse in the woods near Househan village and used his martial arts skills to slip into the village unnoticed. He landed like a feather in the Bai family's backyard. He was used to hiding on rooftops or inside houses when tailing someone. But the Bai's place was a simple mud house, so the backyard was his only option. Luckily, farmers don't usually have guards, so he was safe enough. Lu Dong would have lost it if he knew Jiang Yichuan was sneaking around someone's backyard. Jiang Yichuan found Bai Ruozhu's room, but he stopped short when he heard a muffled groan. Bai Ruozhu was biting down on something, trying not to scream so she'd have the strength to deliver. Jiang Yichuan knew a bit about medicine, but not much about childbirth. He figured Bai Ruozhu was just tough, gritting her teeth and holding it in. He was impressed. She was way better than the loud, dramatic women he'd imagined. If Bai Ruozhu could hear him, she'd be yelling, "Easy for you to say. Have you ever given birth? It freaking hurts." That she was in agony, sweat pouring down her face, biting down so hard on a handkerchief she thought her teeth would break. "Almost there," Lu Baishuang said, her voice softer than usual. "It'll be faster now. Try to relax, and you'll push easier. Maybe close your eyes for a bit," she added. Bai Ruozhu wanted to scream. She knew childbirth was painful, but she'd been optimistic, figuring she could handle it. Now, she realized she'd been way too naive. This pain was unbearable. She even wanted to beg Lu Baishuang to knock her out, but she knew better. The pain was the only thing keeping her awake. About an hour later, Lu Baishuang gave Bai Ruozhu a potion. Bai Ruozhu was too exhausted to care, but Lu Baishuang explained, "The amniotic fluid was a little dirty, so this will help make sure the baby's okay and give you a boost." Bai Ruozhu didn't even have the energy to nod. She was bracing herself for the next wave of pain. By the time she was fully dilated and ready to deliver, the sky was starting to lighten. She'd been in labor for almost a full day. Everyone in the yard was on edge. Mrs. Wang Su and Zhou Deshun had gone home to take care of their families. Only the Bai's second son and his wife, Xiaoxi, and Du Zhongshu remained. And, of course, Jiang Yichuan, still lurking in the shadows. Xiaoxi was exhausted, but he'd stayed up all night, despite Lin Pinger's pleas to rest. She and the others were touched. He still had the bruises from when he was beaten for sticking up for Sanlang, and they were grateful and worried about him. "Those people over there have hearts of stone." "Xiaoxi's a good kid," Bai Ziho said nervously. Lin Pinger and Bai Yihong nodded. They knew what had happened. If Xiaoxi hadn't helped, and the old man hadn't been so biased, the whole thing would have been a disaster. I even wondered if Xiaoxi was the uncle's real kid. When they left, I heard the uncle yelling at Xiaoxi. It was awful. Bai Ziho trailed off, too embarrassed to repeat the words. "Don't talk nonsense. I saw your aunt pregnant with Xiaoxi, watched her belly grow, then saw her give birth. He's her son. Your aunt probably picked up those nasty words from whoever she's been gossiping with." Lin Pinger had seen Wang pregnant and give birth, or she might have wondered herself if Xiaoxi was Wang's real child. Given how coldly she treated him, it wasn't just coldness, it was neglect. The kid was almost beaten to death by his grandmother, and she just gave him some money and let it go. Didn't even bother to have a doctor look at him. What kind of mother was that? Bai Yihong looked at Xiaoxi's skinny back and whispered, "What's going to happen to him?" He helped Ruozhu and ticked off the old folks. They shouldn't take it out on a kid, but I bet. He couldn't finish the thought. The boy was probably going to get beaten. He's probably going to get abused, Lin Pinger agreed. The whole family was worried. Even Erlang, who'd been quiet, said, "If it was before, I could have talked to Grandpa, but now. I doubt it would do any good." He'd crossed the old man. But he didn't regret it. He couldn't stand by and let the old man treat his sister that way. No one should look down on her. She deserved respect, especially with everything she had. The family sighed. No one had any good answers, and no one wanted to criticize the old man. He was just getting old and confused. Meanwhile, Du Zhongshu was alone on the other side of the yard, forgotten by everyone. He'd refused to leave, even after being invited multiple times. He was still shaken by Lao Shen's suicide and wouldn't feel better until the baby was born. I hope Bai Ruozhu and her son are okay. Du Zhongshu thought, Just then, Lu Baishuang's voice rang out from the room, almost there. Breathe in, and push. I can see the baby's hair. Just a little more and it'll be out. Lu Baishuang had been up all night, taking care of the mother. Her voice was hoarse with exhaustion. The family rushed to the door of Bai Ruozhu's room. Was the baby coming? Lin Ping'er and Bai Yihong held hands, both excited. Their first grandchild was about to be born. Suddenly, Lu Baishuang poked her head out and yelled, "Cut 3 slices of ginseng, quick!" Even though Bai Ruozhu hadn't screamed or wasted energy, the labor had been long and she was still recovering from being pushed, so she was exhausted and couldn't push with all her strength. Du Zhongshu grabbed the ginseng and the special knife he prepared. He quickly sliced 3 pieces and handed them to Lu Baishuang. Freshly cut ginseng was the most effective. Lu Baishuang didn't say a word, just turned and went back inside. Time seemed to stop. Everyone in the yard held their breath, afraid to miss anything. Just as the sun rose, a baby's cry filled the air. The baby was finally here. It had been a long time coming. It was said that I gave birth to the baby after the due date, and then took birth control drugs. It hurt my mother to death. It hurts to think about it. It's not easy for us women. Chapter 98 Postpartum Hemorrhage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's here. It's here. Bai Yihong yelled, squeezing Ruozhu's mom's hand. Lin Ping'er was clutching him just as tight. They were so caught up in the moment, they didn't even notice they were hurting each other. Later, they realized they'd both left bruises and laughed about it for ages. Inside, Bai Ruozhu let out a huge sigh of relief. She was exhausted and barely had the energy to lift a finger, but the labor pains had vanished, and the pressure on her stomach was finally gone. She felt so much better. Then, out of nowhere, a wave of resentment washed over her. She'd been through so much pain, she'd almost died. Thank goodness the kid didn't have a man's last name, or she'd really lose it. It's a boy, fair-skinned, chubby, and a real looker. Lu Baishuang announced, her voice full of cheer, but Bai Ruozhu was still a little resentful towards the baby. He hadn't seemed to care about her pain at all, taking his sweet time to arrive. And fair-skinned and chubby? He was wrinkly and red. Lu Baishuang was such a fibber, at least the baby's cries weren't as loud as she'd expected. He was probably just super sleepy. Lu Baishuang, still holding the wailing infant, asked Lin Ping'er to come in and help cut the umbilical cord. Bai Ruozhu was mesmerized, watching the crying baby with his back to her, the cord still connecting them. It felt surreal. Suddenly, the little guy squirmed, twisting his neck as if trying to look at Bai Ruozhu. One eye fluttered open, and it looked like he actually glanced in her direction. Look! He opened an eye and looked at me. Bai Ruozhu exclaimed, suddenly thrilled. Just like that, all the resentment she'd felt vanished without a trace. Lu Baishuang wiped down the baby, grinning. This kid's something special. Most newborns can't even open their eyes for a few days. He already knows to check on his mama. He's gonna be a real good son. Bai Ruozhu was beaming, her spirits lifting. She felt almost giddy. Honey, you need to rest. Dr. Lu's got everything under control, Lin Ping'er said, her voice full of concern. She touched Bai Ruozhu's forehead. Bai Ruozhu nodded weakly. Okay, I'll try to get some shut-eye. Lu Baishuang wasn't packing up just yet. Even after a smooth delivery, there could still be complications. If the amniotic sac had ruptured too early, the baby might have trouble feeding. He could even inhale fluid and develop aspiration pneumonia. And the mother could still get an infection. Bai Ruozhu drifted off, exhausted. Her body felt like it didn't even belong to her anymore. Lu Baishuang and Lin Ping'er bundled the baby up and took him out to show everyone. They cleaned him up with warm water. The whole family was over the moon about the new arrival. Since Bai Ruozhu needed her rest, they kept their distance and fussed over the baby in the living room, all agreeing he looked just like Bai Ruozhu when she was little. If he takes after my little sister, he's gonna be a heartbreaker, Bai Ruozhu declared, beaming with uncle pride. Everyone chimed in with similar comments, until Xiaoxi, always the odd one out, piped up coldly, he doesn't look good. He just looks red, like he got sunburned. The room erupted in laughter. Xiaoxi was the youngest in the family and had never seen a newborn before. How would he know? Back in Bai Ruozhu's room, the air was thick with the smell of blood. She wasn't sleeping well, and her brow furrowed slightly. But she was too tired to notice that she was bleeding heavily. Postpartum hemorrhage. Jiang Yichuan, who'd been lurking in the backyard all night, paused in his tracks. That woman's got the worst luck, he thought. Everything seemed fine with the birth. Why the sudden hemorrhage? And of course, the midwife's not even in the room. He knew how to stop the bleeding, but Jiang Yichuan hesitated, then decided that it wasn't a big deal. Survival was way more important than following the rules. Besides, if she was unconscious, she wouldn't even know he'd saved her. It wasn't like he was taking advantage of her, he'd always been unconventional, and that was one of the reasons his superiors valued him. He slipped in through the back window, listening for sounds from the main house, and quickly administered acupuncture to stop the bleeding. Luckily, Lu Baishuang didn't return too quickly. By the time he'd finished, the bleeding had stopped. He yanked the needles out, not daring to look anywhere he shouldn't, and bolted out. Bai Ruozhu groaned, her eyelids fluttering open. She felt like someone had just been in the room. Besides the metallic tang of blood, there was another, unfamiliar scent, suddenly, it hit her, it smelled like the fairy in the painting. She giggled at the thought. She was so lightheaded. Why would the fairy from the painting be here? She shifted slightly, then drifted back to sleep. Soon after, Lu Baishuang brought the baby back in. He was asleep. She didn't notice that Bai Ruozhu had been hemorrhaging and assumed that both mother and child were fine. She breathed a sigh of relief. Bai Ruozhu didn't sleep for long before waking up again. Lu Baishuang gave her some water to drink. A little later, Bai Ruozhu was able to urinate, and Lu Baishuang finally felt like she could relax. She was exhausted. Now that mother and baby are both safe, I'm heading home, Lu Baishuang said, her eyes bloodshot. Staying up all night had taken a toll. Lin Ping'er thanked her profusely and slipped her an extra 5 taels of silver. Lu Baishuang was surprised and glanced at the Ukamiya book sitting off to the side. She'd originally received a 2-tael deposit, and the 3 taels were enough for her fee. The Beis were being generous, but because of Du Zhongshu's connection, she felt awkward accepting it. Du Zhongshu nodded subtly in her direction. He knew the Beis wouldn't be destitute over a couple of taels. He also knew he wouldn't be able to see Bai Ruozhu, so he left 10 taels of silver and said, Chongqing asked me to give you this. I was so busy, I almost forgot. Bai Yihong tried to refuse. You brought us that old ginseng root. This isn't enough to cover it. We can't accept this. Du Zhongshu smiled ruefully. Ruozhu helped me earn a fortune. Enough to buy 10 old wild ginseng. Lin Ping'er was taken aback. Hadn't Ruozhu told the Du family to keep the partnership a secret? Why bring up the Ukamiya deal in front of Lu Baishuang? Before she could dwell on it, Du Zhongshu turned to Lu Baishuang. Auntie, let me give you a ride home. Lu Baishuang shot him a playful glare. If he hadn't dragged her into this, she wouldn't have had to work so hard. Let's go. You're buying me a decent meal later, Lu Baishuang said casually, then headed out. After they left, the Bai family looked at one another in stunned silence. Bai Yihong's face broke into a grateful smile. Looks like Mr. Du's been a real help to us. Chapter 99 Misunderstanding Caused by Name. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bai Ruozhu barely got any sleep before the next wave of agony hit, breastfeeding. Sure, childbirth was rough, but she never imagined breastfeeding could hurt this much. They say the baby is the best way to get your milk flowing. Bai Ruozhu lay on her side, trying to nurse, but she yelped almost immediately. Was he even sucking? It felt more like biting. Shoo, don't scream, you'll scare him. It's rough at first, especially with boys, they're so strong, Lin Ping'er cautioned her. Bai Ruozhu just wanted to pout. Why was her life such a mess? Never even dated, got pregnant right away. Now she had to haul around this huge belly for months, finally deliver, and then live in constant pain. Breastfeeding was torture, what was the deal? Luckily, her body bounced back quickly, and the colostrum came in that day. Maybe because there wasn't much, the baby latched on like a champ. After about 15 minutes on both sides, Bai Ruozhu took a look and almost burst into tears again. Great, skin already broken. Wah! Did this kid even care about her? Lin Ping'er sighed. Women get the short end of the stick, and it only gets tougher. When I had your brother, I cried every feeding. Bai Ruozhu figured her brother would turn beet red if he heard that. The thought momentarily distracted her, shifting her mood a little. Of course, the kid wasn't full and started wailing again. Lin Ping'er went to the kitchen for some rice water to feed him. No formula back then, and no one in the village could afford a wet nurse. If the mom didn't produce enough rice water, it was, sure enough, the kid drifted off after a bit of rice water. Newborns are weird. They sleep when they're fed and scream when they need a change. Bai Ruozhu finally had a moment of peace. She propped her head up and gazed at the tiny human beside her. Just one day in, and his skin wasn't as red as when he was born. He actually looked good. He's growing like a weed. His hair's been gorgeous since day one, Lin Ping'er murmured. Bai Ruozhu gently touched the soft, black hair. Must have been all the good food she ate while pregnant. How else would he have such great hair? Staring at his sleeping face, she thought his eyes were long and narrow. He was definitely going to grow up into a heartthrob with big eyes. Too soon to tell about his small nose, but it was cute now, giving him a delicate look. She lightly touched his earlobe. Good ears, too. They say good ears mean good luck. In her past life, her ears were too small. Some old fortune teller said she was unlucky because of her short ears. It would be a life of hard work, and sure enough, she toiled away for over 20 years before her accidental death. But who did he look like? His father? Would she see his father in him later? Bai Ruozhu started to doze off. In the end, she figured he'd probably look like her. Aren't boys supposed to look like their mothers? We haven't named him yet. Why don't you give him a nickname first? Lin Ping'er suggested, but Bai Ruozhu, still half asleep, mumbled, call him Kicker. Ugh, always kicking her in the stomach. He was a real little troublemaker. Kicker. Lin Ping'er clearly misheard. Bai Ruozhu was half asleep, so her voice was mumbling. Too bad Bai Ruozhu was already out cold and didn't hear her mother's question. Lin Ping'er decided not to bother her and quietly left the room. The second she stepped into the main room, her eyes welled up. Bai Yihong jumped, startled, and asked, "What's wrong? You were fine just now." Lin Ping'er sniffled, then burst into tears. Poor Ruozhu, still hung up on him. You know what nickname she gave the baby? What? Bai Yihong's heart clenched. He felt bad for his daughter, and for his grandson who would never know his father. She said, "Wait." Lin Ping'er sobbed even harder. Wait. Bai Yihong's eyes turned red as well. Both of them sighed, heavy with sorrow. When Bai Ruozhu woke up from her nap, she had no clue about the huge misunderstanding. Lin Ping'er brought her food but avoided the topic, though her eyes looked puffy. Bai Ruozhu didn't think much of it, assuming her mother was exhausted from taking care of her and the baby. She told her to get a good night's sleep, that she'd watch the baby, and if she needed anything, she'd call for them. Lin Ping'er just nodded. The baby woke up then, but he didn't cry. He opened his eyes and stared at Bai Ruozhu, though his eyes were unfocused and black. Then Bai Ruozhu remembered that babies don't have fully developed eyesight yet. How could he even see her? Before, when he had stared at her, she had thought he was trying to see her. She started playing with him and found it amusing. Giggling, she said, "Little kicker, you better be good. Don't be as naughty as you were in my belly. Always kicking. Mommy gave you that nickname to remind you how you used to bully me." She said it without thinking, but the listener was stunned. Lin Pinger thought she misheard. Quietly, she asked, "Kicking, as in, kicking me?" Bai Ruozhu nodded. "Yeah, always kicking me." Lin Pinger burst into tears and said, "Girl, you gotta explain things better. I've been crying my eyes out for nothing. That's frustrating." While Bai Ruozhu played with the baby, Lin Pinger ran out and told Bai Yihong about Kicker. Bai Yihong was just as floored. After a moment, he said, "What kind of a name is that? The other one's better." Lin Pinger rolled her eyes. "I'd rather he kick than have her wait for someone who won't be coming back." Bai Yihong had no comeback for that. After thinking about it, that was the truth. For the next few days, the Bai family temporarily stopped working on the house, afraid of disturbing Bai Ruozhu and the baby. They decided to resume in about 10 days. The provincial exam was fast approaching, and Bai Zipei stayed inside, studying. He even ate in the house. But he always took time to hold little Kicker. The whole family adored the baby. Within a few days, Bai Ruozhu's milk came in, and little Kicker started to turn into a chubby, adorable baby girl. Neighbors came to see the baby and brought gifts. Everyone who saw the baby praised how good-looking she was and said that the Bai family was lucky to have such a precious granddaughter. Zhou Deshun's wife asked the baby's name in private. Learning that the nickname was Kicker, she lowered her voice and asked Lin Pinger, "What about the real name? Are you letting the old man name her?" Lin Pinger sighed. Deep down, she didn't think the old man was worthy, but that was how things were done. What would happen if the baby wasn't included in the family tree? Chapter 100: A Good Opportunity to Buy Land. You are listening at novelfull.audio. To keep Bai Ruozhu's spirits up during her postpartum recovery, everyone avoided talking about those things around her. Not that she hadn't thought about them herself, but she preferred to ignore them for now. Right now, nothing was more important than her own body and the health of her baby. If something happened to the little one, she'd be the one to suffer. Before they knew it, a couple of weeks had flown by, and the baby was getting cuter by the day. He especially loved snuggling with Bai Ruozhu and fussed when anyone else held him. He was definitely a mama's boy. The village kids weren't generally spoiled. While families loved their children, they didn't coddle them constantly. Bai Ruozhu was relieved. She worried that the baby would get used to being held all the time and refuse to sleep alone. During this time, Lin Pinger returned the borrowed cart to the Zhang family, along with a small thank you gift. The Zhang family insisted they didn't need it, but Lin Pinger wouldn't take it back. The Zhang family's timely help was something Bai Ruozhu and her family wouldn't forget. After thanking the Zhangs, she naturally wouldn't forget Zhao Luden, who helped drive the cart, and the other family members who lent a hand. Bai Ruozhu first had her parents send over some gifts, planning to personally thank everyone with the baby in her arms once her confinement was over. She also planned to thank Lu Baishuang and Yukamiya Olmoids in town. Bai Ruozhu was recovering well. She took good care of herself, using modern postpartum methods. After a little over 2 weeks, she felt completely renewed. She made sure to walk around a bit each day. The idea of staying bedridden the entire time was ridiculous. She had to get up to use the bathroom, right? Unfortunately, Lin Pinger wouldn't let her leave the house, not even to take a bath. Despite feeling good, Bai Ruozhu was starting to feel itchy and uncomfortable. Around day 12 postpartum, she asked her family to resume building her older brother's house. His house was the farthest from hers, and nobody would pass by her door. It might get a little noisy, but the house was already half finished. Why wait another month to finish it? Bai Yihong suggested waiting, but Bai Ruozhu said it was fine. She was only up during the day and could stop eating or rest if needed. It really wouldn't affect her recovery. Besides, she had a secret weapon, right? Bai Ruozhu secretly grinned. She discovered that she could take her son into her secret space. The little guy's eyes widened when he saw the pond. Who knew what he was thinking, but she could tell he was excited. Even when he was crying, he'd stop and quickly drift off to sleep. She'd secretly used this trick to soothe him many times, and it always worked. Construction started again, and the Bai household became lively. The workers were careful to keep their voices down, trying not to disturb little Deng Deng. But the day after work resumed, an unexpected guest arrived. "Ruozhu, you look fantastic. Like you haven't even given birth," Zhou Taohua exclaimed cheerfully as she entered the room. She glanced at the baby. "Is his name Deng Deng? He's so cute. He looks like a lucky little charm." Bai Ruozhu didn't dislike Zhou Taohua, but she knew Zhou Taohua was interested in Zapei. Bai Ruozhu didn't want to get too close to Zhou Taohua. "Peach Blossom, what brings you here? My room isn't well ventilated, and it probably smells. I'll come visit you when I'm out of confinement," Bai Ruozhu said with a smile, keeping her distance friendly, but firm. "Okay, you definitely have to come visit," Zhou Taohua said, apparently missing the hint. Lowering her voice, she stepped closer to Bai Ruozhu. "Actually, my father asked me to come. You had the baby right when we needed his help with something. It wasn't convenient for him to visit you. I figured I'd wait until you were out of confinement, but then I thought there's a good opportunity now. It would be a pity to miss it." "Oh. Thank Uncle Zhou for me," Bai Ruozhu replied, feeling slightly embarrassed. She'd assumed Zhou Taohua was just being nosy, but she actually had business to discuss. "Don't mention it. My dad said he should have helped you with this sooner. He'd feel bad otherwise," Zhou Taohua said, dropping her voice again. "There's an old man in Linjiang village named Wang Laomo. He wants to sell his land, 5 acres of good land, for just 35 taels of silver. Good land usually went for at least 10 taels an acre." Bai Ruozhu raised an eyebrow. "That's a pretty low price. Is he in a hurry to sell?" Zhou Taohua nodded. "That's right. Otherwise, he wouldn't sell it so cheap. He says his son is doing well in the city and wants to take him there to take care of him. Then why not just lease the land?" Bai Ruozhu asked, confused. Zhou Taohua gave her a knowing look and said mysteriously, "Well, my father heard that things aren't that simple. Apparently, the son lost money in business and needs cash fast. Forget about taking care of him, he needs a bailout." Bai Ruozhu sighed. Poor parents. Even though she felt for the old man, she wouldn't let that stop her from buying the land. If they couldn't raise the money, things would get even worse. "I'll talk to my parents and then ask my father to have Uncle Zhou take a look at the land. If it's good, we'll sign the deal," Bai Ruozhu said. Her father knew the most about land and had the most experience. It would be safest for him to check it out first. "Okay, I'll tell my father. But you need to act fast, or Wang Laomo might sell it to someone else," Zhou Taohua cautioned. "Got it," Bai Ruozhu said. After that, Bai Ruozhu expected Zhou Taohua to leave, but she stayed put. She started asking about caring for the baby, clearly fascinated with children. Finally, Zhou Taohua steered the conversation toward Bai Zapei. "Ruozhu, I heard you need to prepare a lot of things for the exams. Is Zapei ready? Do you need any help?" Zhou Taohua's face flushed slightly, as if she'd worked up a lot of courage to ask. Bai Ruozhu hadn't given it much thought. Zhou Taohua's reminder made her realize she should probably get something together, at least a pen, some snacks, and maybe some medicine in case he felt sick. Could Zhou Taohua even help with this kind of thing? If she did, it'd be hard to explain. Second brother is always prepared. "I'm sure he's got everything covered," Bai Ruozhu said with a strained smile. It seemed like her initial reservations about Zhou Taohua were justified. Zhou Taohua looked a little disappointed, but she still said, "Oh, okay. If you need anything, let me know. I know the owner of the stationery shop in town. I could get you a discount. I'll ask second brother about it later." Thanks in advance, Bai Ruozhu replied, forcing a smile. Zhou Taohua finally stood up. Alright, I won't disturb your rest any longer. I'm going to go see Brother Zapei.